Well, welcome back, and I've been looking forward to having with us today somebody we haven't talked to for quite a while, and always an honor to sit down with former Congressman from the state of Texas in the 1st District, Louie Gohmert, with us today, a longtime constitutional conservative there from 1st District in the state of Texas, where he served as their congressman for over 2 decades. He's a distinguished attorney, former state judge, and now a senior fellow at the David Horowitz Freedom Center. And you can go to his website, gohmert.com, which is GOH-MERT.com, and there's the picture of the landing page. Congressman, good to see you, friend. How are you?
Always good to be with you, Perry. Thank you.
We got you on the run. You're in the car.
Yeah, I'm sorry. This is the first time I've done this. But a very dear friend, he was 94, but one of the finest Christian gentlemen, smartest could be, got 31 great-grandchildren. I mean, just a wonderful, wonderful man, and he has been an encourager, supporter, ever since I got in politics. And in fact, some of his children and grandchildren have been supporters and actually worked for me. And so his funeral, I'm about to attend that. And so that's why I'm in the car today.
Well, bless your heart. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for giving us time.
No, thank you.
Recently on the Hill, I know that you've been working on behalf of the Judicial Accountability Project, and you met with quite a few members of Congress. What was your goal and how'd it go?
Well, the goal is something actually that I've been working on for years during my years on the Judiciary Committee, and that is to hold wayward judges accountable. As you know, Barry, the Constitution establishes checks and balances so that no branch could get too far afield. The founders anticipated that the judicial branch would be the weakest, and it's turned out just the opposite, because Congress, as the check on the judicial system, has not been that check that was needed to hold them within the bounds of the judicial system. So they have begun, some of them, the vast majority have not legislated and usurped executive functions, but some have, and they need to be subpoenaed. They need to be put on the hot seat before the Judiciary Committee in the House, and they need to, if their behavior is bad enough, be impeached and removed from office.
We have seen some things, Congressman, that obviously have left us just our brain on tilt on some of these judges. It doesn't seem to be an appetite in Congress to bring them in and make them accountable. Is that changing?
I think it's definitely changing, Perry, and that's what Daniel Greenfield, the new CEO of the David Horowitz Freedom Center, and I spent a few days on Capitol Hill talking to members of Congress and some of my great old friends, many on the Judiciary Committee in the House. We talked to a number on the Judiciary Committee in the Senate. And it turns out the Judiciary Committee in the Senate, chaired by Senator Grassley, and the Subcommittee of Oversight of Judiciary, they had tried to get judges, Boasberg and another judge, to come in voluntarily to testify, and they refused. And I asked Senator Grassley, I said, did you subpoena them, think about subpoena them? He said, no, under our rules, it takes 60 votes on the Senate floor to subpoena them. He said, what's it take in the House? And I said, it just takes a majority of the committee. And he said, oh, well, he said, that's where it's going to have to happen. And he said, and of course, another issue that might be a problem, if we end up subpoenaing them, then they end up being impeached by the House and we have a trial in the Senate. Some might say, well, they're already the Senate is already impartial because they brought them in earlier. So it really makes sense. The House Judiciary Committee needs to be the one to subpoena them, get them on the hot seat, and question them. And if I can make one other quick point, Perry, so many people think that you have to catch a judge committing treason, bribery, high crime, misdemeanor, because they're so familiar with those terms regarding impeachment. And that's been discussed about impeachment for judges. But if you look at Article 3 pertaining to judges, it says that the judges, they only get to sit, and I'm quoting, during their good behavior. And if you think about the genius of the founding Constitution, the founders knew there'd be some yahoos get elected that were borderline questionable characters. So let's say they have to actually commit a crime before you remove them from office through impeachment. But it says for judges, you want them to be of higher character. So let's say they only get to sit during good behavior. They don't have to commit a crime. They just have to sit during good behavior. The very first judge removed from office through impeachment, he didn't commit a crime. He was drunk on the bench.
Okay, because this sets up a pretty interesting discussion, because that then makes people moral judges. And I know where you are with your faith, and I think that we are a Judeo-Christian nation, and we're built upon those principles, but they have also been challenged. How do we enforce that, Coach?
Well, you don't have to be a Christian to understand that bad behavior is lying. For example, there was one judge that said he was never Jeff Epstein's lawyer, and yet the Epstein files come out, and there were communications between them where Epstein was telling him things that needed to be done, and supposedly he was doing them. Well, he needs to be questioned about that. Did you lie when you said you were not Epstein's lawyer? Because I would hope that no matter what your religious beliefs are, that you should understand that's bad behavior if you're a judge held to the highest standards of behavior and you're lying on the bench. And then also the law sets down standards of behavior. There are laws that say you have to remove yourself, recuse yourself from a case if even the slightest hint of partiality in a case. So I would say, if you're a judge on a case that is going to try to freeze a president's decision, like President Trump, to stop funds from going into a fund that fund a charity that you've been on the board of for 31 years, I would say you are not impartial in that case. You needed to recuse yourself in that case. They need to be subpoenaed, brought in, and questioned about why they did not recuse themselves. There are numerous things like that that should require judges to be subpoenaed, so they have no choice. You come in, take an oath, sit on the hot seat, answer questions. Did you lie? Did you violate the law by not recusing yourself? And if it's bad enough, bad behavior, then you vote to impeach and then go to the Senate and have a trial about removal.
Is judicial, or the lack or the violation of judicial integrity, would that be under that category?
I would certainly think so. I would think that's bad behavior. Absolutely. Wouldn't you, Perry?
Yeah.
Wouldn't you think?
Yeah, I'm just trying to build up to the big question. And that is, what do you do with these frivolous injunctions from these judges? I mean, that has really messed the system up.
Well, it has messed up the system, and especially when you get a ruling from the Supreme Court that says, okay, U.S. District Judge, you shall not issue an injunction that creates a nationwide injunction. It should only apply to the case in front of you. And the judge just said, I'm going to ignore what the Supreme Court says and still issue a nationwide injunction. I think it's time for that judge to be subpoenaed and brought in and questioned as to why that judge is disregarding the Supreme Court. And by the way, the Constitution, as my constitutional law professor used to say, it only created one federal court, the Supreme Court. As he said, all other federal courts are created by Congress. Congress brought them into the world. Congress can take them out of the world. Congress can change their jurisdiction. Congress has all power when it comes to the federal court, and it's high time that Congress started exerting that power if the federal courts do not remain within their lanes, as the saying goes. Stay in your lanes. If you don't, then we need to take your lane out and put it to a set of judges that will stay within their lanes.
So the overall problem here, Congressman, is there doesn't seem to be any consequences for rogue judges.
That's right.
And if we don't stop this, our whole judiciary falls through the floor.
Well, that means the country does, because they're taking over executive and legislative functions. And so, yeah, you're getting to the heart of it, Perry.
Does the Judiciary Committee currently begin to see what you're advocating?
Yes, and that was what's so heartening about our talking to judiciary members. They're fired up. They would love the chance to subpoena the judges, bring them in. Jim Jordan, great guy. He is the chairman of Judiciary. Mike Johnson, the way the power has moved into the speaker's, his bailiwick, some of us have tried to pull some of that power back from the speaker and get it back to the members, but it's still a lot there. Usually the speaker has to give an okay to do something like this. But if enough people get fired up enough, they contact their members of Congress. Those members of Congress, even if they're not on judiciary, start saying, hey, Speaker, hey, Chairman Jordan, let's get the judges in. Let's get them questioned under oath. Then it'll happen. I promise you. When people's phones light up, when their emails get fired up, things start happening because people get uncomfortable on Capitol Hill. That's when things happen.
All right, good stuff. Let me take a quick break. Let me say to our viewers and listeners this morning, what an honor to have with us in his car. And that is former Congressman Louie Gohmert with us today. So go to Gohmert.com. That's the website. There's a picture of his landing page. We'll take a quick break and we'll be right back. Okay, welcome back, and what an honor, and the timing couldn't be better to have with us today. Former Congressman Louie Gohmert's with us today, and former Congressman from Texas 1st District. He's a distinguished attorney, a former state judge himself, and he's a senior fellow at the David Horowitz Freedom Center, and we have a lot to talk about him. He's out of political recovery now. He's actually a fine human being. Thank you for your time, sir. Thank you. I was thinking of this question during the break. The Supreme Court has clearly issued to district judges, don't do this. Don't create these injunctions that impact national affairs. And yet they continue to do it. Where is the consequences of violating a Supreme Court order?
Well, that's the trouble. The Supreme Court has not created these consequences. And actually, Congress back in 1979, 1980, was looking at creating a 12-person commission to review judges' bad behavior with an eye toward removing them from office if necessary. And the judiciary came rushing in and said, hey, let's work out a deal. We agree to police ourselves if you just won't pass this law and create this commission. And so Congress backed off. There was nothing in writing. Congress just backed off, didn't pass the law. And I'm telling you, as you're talking about over the last 46 years, the judiciary has not policed itself, and they've let the judges get away with incredibly bad conduct. And so you can have a judge that has sexual relations in her chambers, and she just gets a slap on the wrist. Not a big deal. Well, that's maybe bad behavior. I would think that judge needed to be brought in and questioned, and the conduct discussed, and let it see the light of day and determine whether it's bad behavior or not. Maybe it's not enough to remove a president because it's not a treason, bribery, high crime, or misdemeanor, but whether it's bad behavior that would require the removal of a judge may be a different form, maybe a different standard. So I would think it requires bringing them in.
Just a little addendum to that point. The Supreme Court has told certain presidents don't do things, and they keep doing them.
Yep.
And so
Yep.
should the Supreme Court have its own consequential department?
Well, yeah, they don't, and that's probably a good thing, because if they had their own consequential department, then when the Supreme Court did things like horrible opinions like Dred Scott, they could have led this country into a terrible, terrible situation. Yeah. So they weren't meant to have that kind of consequential action. And that would have completely skewed the checks and balances if they had.
I understand that. That was a little tongue-in-cheek, so thank you.
I know.
So let me ask you this. Looking back to your passion here through the Judicial Accountability Project, if you were to get one reform through the committee today or through Congress, which one would you like to see first?
Well, there's a whole lot of them I would like to see done, but there doesn't even need to be reform. There needs to be a lot of reform.
Right.
There's been so much abuse by the DOJ, so much abuse. But initially, the first thing that needs to be done is to bring this small group of judges that have abused their position and have them questioned before Congress so that the House can determine whether or not to move forward with an impeachment proceeding.
Okay.
If not, if it's not that bad, great. If it is, but there's got to be an indication that, look, there is somebody looking over your shoulder.
I want to say this carefully, but it is very biblical when you're put under accountability, and it doesn't appear to be that these judges are under any really form of accountability.
Well, there are the circuits look at the judges within their circuit, and back within a few years after I got on the got to Congress on the Judiciary Committee, the Fifth Circuit referred a couple of judges to us for impeachment. One was, you might think he was a good candidate for impeachment because he was in prison at the time for sexually assaulting one of his assistants. He wouldn't resign because as long as he didn't resign, he kept getting a check for being a judge every month.
Oh.
So we had to move forward with impeachment, or he was going to keep getting a check. And we felt like that was pretty bad behavior.
Yeah.
And he had actually committed a crime. Another from Louisiana had accepted bribes and appeared to us, and he had failed to mention that and didn't feel like that was a big problem. We thought it was. So there, in that case, the Fifth Circuit did send them forward to have impeachment actions taken.
Okay.
But since then, there really hasn't been that kind of action that I've seen taken by the circuit courts. It's kind of like, well, we'll just keep it in-house and we won't expose you if you'll just try to avoid making too big a splash. But it's out of control now, Perry.
Yeah. So often we hear a decision by a judge, and the final decision is it's unconstitutional. And we don't hear any more. We don't hear how it's unconstitutional. I guess we would have to dig out the decision papers and take a look. But is that being misused?
Oh, terribly, terribly, terribly. And if you look at the Obamacare decision itself, that John Roberts wrote for the majority, it was just an incredible activity in mental gymnastics. If you look, the first issue they had to take up was whether or not the required penalty paid was a tax. Because if that penalty was a tax, then the Supreme Court did not have jurisdiction, and the case was not timely to be brought, and the plaintiff did not have standing, because if it's a tax, the tax has to be assessed, and the plaintiff has to have paid it. Otherwise, it's not proper to be brought yet. So Judge Roberts, in his decision, he goes through discussing, is it a tax? Is it not a tax? The administration says it's not a tax, and so we'll say it's not a tax. And so he ultimately concludes, okay, it's not a tax. Therefore, we have jurisdiction. The plaintiff has standing. We can go ahead and decide the case. About 40 pages or so later, he ultimately decides, you know what? It is a tax, and Congress has the power to lay taxes. Therefore, it is constitutional. And so, there you have it.
There you go.
So, I mean, you play those kind of mental gymnastics with something as important as 1/6 of the U.S. economy, and that's at the top court in the land. That's a real problem, Perry. I just think that's so disingenuous.
Wow. Congressman, thank you for your time. Thank you. I value it greatly. That gets you in a car on your way to a memorial, that's pretty unusual.
Well,
and
well, I know where he is, and he's rejoicing, but his family, they've been such good friends, and that's why I'm here in Nacogdoches for them.
Sincere condolences to all. So thank you, my friend. God bless you. Thanks for your service.
Thank you, Perry.
Stay in the fight. We need you.
Thank you, brother.
We need you. We need you in the fight. Okay.
We will.
Okay. Thank you.
You hadn't heard the last from me.